Okay, I'm going to start this morning by just welcoming everyone. Sawadee Kap, Sawadee Kap. Nice to see all of you guys here this morning. Welcome to Wat Tung. Today is our group learning program where each Sunday and Wednesday I get together with students, helping them to understand the path to enlightenment. We use this book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. This is our foundational text where each Sunday I walk students through chapter by chapter, helping them to develop a foundation in the teachings of the Buddha over a 7-month period. We do this here at the temple, and I also live stream, so welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. And we do this at 9 a.m. here at the temple, and I do it at 9 p.m. from home, from our home studio. So no matter where you are in the world, you can join this program and learn from the very beginning if you like, and you can join at any point of the 7-month period. We're actually coming towards the end of our program now. We're in chapter 21 of the book, and today what we're going to be discussing is the chapter that's titled Do No Harm, What is the Future of the Planet? This is where you're starting to understand a bit about making conscious choices about how we interact with the planet. So I'd like to welcome all of you guys here and everyone online. I'm going to get into our topic today after we have our meditation. I lead you guys and guide you in a meditation before we actually do the talk and the topic about what it is that we're going to be sharing any particular day. So if you'd like to join for meditation, you're more than welcome to. The way that I do the meditation is I start with chanting. I see some of you guys have these chanting sheets. They're over on the table over there. If you'd like to get a copy of the chanting sheets and follow along and even chant with me, you're welcome to do that. If you look at the chants, they're in the Pali language. This is the historical language of the teachings of the Buddha. And then it's got the English translations as well. It's important to understand that during the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help people commit the teachings to memory, that every 2 weeks, he would bring his students together in order to recite his teachings word for word, because everything he taught was oral. He didn't write things down during his lifetime because the technology to write things down didn't exist in that part of the world. So every 2 weeks, his students would come together and recite his teachings word for word. So there isn't anything mystical or magical about these chants. It's not rites or rituals or ceremonies or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. Instead, what it does nowadays is it helps us to ease our mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. As I mentioned, during the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. So there isn't anything mystical or magical here about these chants. In fact, I don't even think that the Buddha created these chants himself, because if you read the English translations, there's a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha in these chants. And a Buddha is not going to go around and create chants like this and give them to their students and say, hey, chant these things to me, because a Buddha would have eliminated their ego and their arrogance. They would have been putting themselves above others. So these chants were most likely created by his students, because one of the things that the Buddha did, the primary thing, is he shared teachings that helped people move to the enlightened mental state. What enlightenment is where the mind's peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. It no longer experiences any discontent feelings. So by the time you train your mind, you won't experience any anger or sadness. There's no frustration or agitation or annoyance, guilt, shame, and fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness and boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these discontent feelings and others are completely eliminated from the enlightened mind. The mind will be focused. You'll have concentration, clarity, deep memory. Your personal and professional relationships will be blossoming because you're not being bitter and harsh and hostile in your relationships any longer. So if you learn from a teacher that helped you move from that anger and sadness to this peace and joy, and they didn't want anything from you, they didn't expect anything from you, you'd probably have a lot of appreciation and gratitude for that person too. Probably have a lot of respect for that person. So I suspect that his students created these either during his life or after his death. So I use these to ease into the meditation, because we don't need chanting in order to remember the teachings anymore. We have books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts, all these kinds of things. After the chanting, I'm going to come in with some guidance to be guiding you in the meditation, and then that'll be maybe like about a 5-minute period where I'm just kind of guiding you during the meditation. Then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're just all meditating together. Everyone here and everyone online will just all be meditating and training our mind. Then we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And again, you're welcome to join in with the chanting if you'd like. So you might be interested in having some guidance on your body positioning. There's 4 positions to meditate in. There's seated, lying, standing, and walking. These are the 4 positions that one might employ, and you use these different positions at different times for different reasons. And we teach these at different times during our classes, courses, and retreats. But just to give you a little bit of guidance on the seated position, because oftentimes people are learning in the seated position. Someone might be sitting on the floor or in a chair, on a bench or a sofa. You might be in a wheelchair or something like that. You can sit however you're comfortable. But just to give you a little bit of guidance, if you're on the floor, you might sit with a cushion or more under your rear and just lightly cross your legs. If your legs are really tight, this can impede the circulation and it would cause pain in the lower body. So you're not interested in that. So just lightly cross your legs. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets their hips up in the air and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles and allows the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it. But this practice isn't about everybody doing it exactly the same way, because this isn't actually possible. Different people are going to find different things to be comfortable. So if you'd like to use this with your right hand over your left, you surely could. But there's other options like putting your palms on your thighs or on your knees. You could put your palms up. You could rest your hands comfortably in your lap, whatever's comfortable for you with your hands and arms. And then for those of you guys in chairs, sometimes people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles. And then same thing, putting your hands and arms wherever you're comfortable. But you can really sit however you like, because I'm in this chair with my legs crossed. So you could really sit however you're comfortable. The upper body should be erect. This keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So what you'd like to do is have your sternum up and your shoulders back. This will keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, and it'll also help you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose during the meditation. So again, I'm going to ease us into meditation with some chanting, then I'm going to come back in with some guidance, and you're welcome to join along with the chanting. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Wat Tung Mahakawanhang Apiwateyami Sawakato Mahakawata Tammo Namang Namasami Supatipano Mahakawato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokawito Anutero Purisa Dhamma สติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath, not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathe in naturally through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Once the breath is well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. There's no need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go, anytime the mind moves off the breath, you have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาโอตังมหาเกวันนังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวตากัมโมนามังนามาสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารณังสัมมุโนสคาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวาปานุสนังโหโตภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to everyone here at the temple. Welcome to everyone joining us online. Welcome to everyone who joined us since we started meditating. As I mentioned, today is our group learning program, and I'm going to be sharing with you guys some discussion that we'll have as part of our class today. But before I do, for those of you guys that it's your first time here at the temple, I'd like to just share a few things to help you feel more comfortable here. Is that in the back of the room, the very last door on the right, there's a bathroom. Feel free to use this at any time. You're welcome to get up and use the restroom at any point. There's even restrooms outside the classroom. If you go out to the parking lot, there's signs that'll take you around to the main bathrooms. You're welcome to use those as well. We even have snacks and water and juice and fruit and things like this that our students provide over here on the table. So you're welcome to help yourself to any refreshments that you like as you're here throughout the morning. So what I'm going to do is share with you guys a little bit of a taste of the teachings of the Buddha, so you kind of get a little bit of a taste of what they are, and then I'm going to open up to any and all questions that you guys have before we move into talking about what it is that we're going to be discussing today. The teachings of the Buddha are to help you awaken to this enlightened mental state. Getting to enlightenment is to train your mind, training your mind to eliminate certain pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind. These pollutions in the mind that he discovered are referred to as the 10 fetters. These are 10 individual pollutions that produce certain symptoms in your mind. And he discovered these on his own. This is the criteria that make a Buddha, is that they get to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. They dedicate the rest of their life to sharing their independently discovered teachings with countless people, and countless people get to enlightenment during that person's lifetime. Then they preserve their teachings in such a way that countless more people can get to enlightenment after their death. So the Buddha discovered these 10 individual pollutions that are referred to as the 10 fetters. He referred to them as fetters because during his lifetime, if you were a prisoner or they were trying to confine you to a certain area, they would attach a fetter to your ankle. What a fetter is a shackle, a chain, and a ball, and this would keep you confined in like a field. Where nowadays, if we have criminals or people who we're looking to confine, we'll put them in a jail cell or a prison cell or something like that. But during those time frame, they would attach a fetter to your ankle, so it keeps you trapped and confined to a certain area. So during the lifetime of the Buddha, since they referred to these things as fetters, he referred to these pollutions of mind or these defilements or these taints as fetters because they keep the mind trapped in the unenlightened state. And as long as your mind has these pollutions, you'll continue to experience discontent feelings. You'll experience anger and sadness and frustration, guilt and shame and fear, stress and anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of these and others are experienced in the mind because of these pollutions. But when you understand what these are, and you apply the tools and techniques to eliminate them, you can actually uproot them out of the mind. And now there's no longer any causes and conditions in the mind that are going to produce those discontent feelings. So the teachings of the Buddha, it's not about a bunch of beliefs. You're not believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. He also didn't share a bunch of rules or commandments of things that if everybody practices these rules and commandments and follows these rules and commandments, the world will become a peaceful place. Instead, he's sharing with you what's referred to as the natural laws of existence. He's helping you to understand this natural world that you live in. Because when your mind's angry and sad and frustrated or experiencing any of those other discontent feelings, your mind's struggling. You have difficulties. You can't exist in the world peacefully because the mind just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. It lacks wisdom about the natural world around you. So you'll stumble over your feet. You'll fall down. You'll hurt yourself. You'll experience discontentedness. When we don't understand natural laws and we don't have wisdom, we'll make unwise decisions that produce unwholesome results in our life. But when we have wisdom, we will make wise decisions that produce wholesome results. If you think back to when we were children, we didn't understand the natural law of gravity. And because of that lack of wisdom, we struggled and we had difficulties in the world. We didn't understand the world. So at 3 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, we fell down, we hit our head, we busted open our elbows, we broke our toys. We had all kinds of difficulties, and we would cry and be upset when these things occurred because we just didn't understand what we didn't understand. We lacked wisdom of the natural law of gravity. But slowly but surely, we gained wisdom of this natural law, and now we started making wiser decisions. We've gotten to the point where we can ride bicycles, we tie our shoes tighter, we get on ladders, we can fly on airplanes all over the world because we fully awoke to the wisdom of this natural law of gravity. And now we make wiser decisions, not because it's a rule or a commandment or not because someone told us that we should do this, but because with wisdom, we understand wise decision making. For example, I have this cup of water behind me. And I put this cup of water behind me because I know if I put it here in front of me, I'll easily knock it over and I'm going to have water all over the floor. Not because somebody told me to do that, but just because understanding the natural law of gravity, you're going to naturally make wiser decisions in the world that's going to lead to more wholesome outcomes. We refer to this as karma, or some people refer to it as karma. This is just different language. The karma is coming from the Sanskrit language, where the word karma is coming from the Pali language. The original source teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali language, so I use this word karma. If it was able to be translated to just one English word, I would just use that because it'd be easier, but it's not able to be translated to just one English word. So what karma is its cause and effect, or action and result. It's the results of your decisions. When you make wise decisions, it's going to produce wholesome results. And when you make unwise decisions, it's going to produce unwholesome results. Well, with these pollutions in the mind, you're going to tend to make unwise decisions because you lack wisdom of this natural law, of the causes and conditions that are leading to any particular outcome. For example, when you get angry or sad or frustrated or any of these other discontent feelings, you might be looking for someone else to blame. You might firmly believe that other people are causing you to be angry or someone else is causing you to be annoyed or frustrated. But this isn't actually true. What the teachings of the Buddha invite you to do is to be able to learn his teachings, investigate them, examine them, to reflect on them, to independently verify that they're true, and then you practice them, integrating them into your life and training your mind, transforming your mind. And when you transform your mind and train your mind, through wisdom, you can see the truth that your mind is actually causing the anger and the sadness and the frustration itself. This is the reason why you can eliminate your anger and your sadness and frustration. If it was everybody else who was causing these feelings in your mind, you wouldn't be able to ever get to peacefulness and joy, because it's everyone else that's causing you to be angry. And this is just not true. What you understand through the teachings of the Buddha, through learning, reflecting, independently verifying practice, is that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. It's craving, desire, attachment, longing, yearning, wanting things to be a certain way. The mind is craving permanence. The mind wants things and expects things to be a certain way. And when it gets what it wants, it gets happy. The mind's excited or elated or thrilled because you're getting what you want. But in a situation where you don't get what you want, you get angry or sad or frustrated. And you live in an impermanent world. Everything around you is impermanent. It's constantly changing. But yet the mind craves for things to be permanent. So for example, when you were in a relationship, maybe with a boyfriend or girlfriend or a husband or a wife, when you guys first came together, you were so happy. You were so excited because someone was showing you affection. You had someone to spend time with and have conversations with. You might have even been having intimate contact or going to the movies, going to dinner. Wow, it felt so great. You were so happy. But then you guys started putting expectations on each other. You wanted certain things from them. They wanted certain things from you. And they couldn't be fulfilled permanently. This person can't do everything you want them to do, and you can't do everything that person wants you to do. So over time, this relationship, there started to be anger and frustration and other feelings like this perhaps. Or maybe somebody just died or passed away or chose to move to another place in the world. When that relationship was over, the mind might have struggled during that period of time. You might have been angry or frustrated, or you might have felt lonely or bored or sad or something like this. It's not the love that's causing these feelings. It's the mind craving permanence and wanting this relationship to be permanent, when in reality, everything around you is impermanent. It's constantly changing. Things are arising, they're changing, and they're fading away. And as long as the mind is craving permanence, you'll continue to struggle because you're not going to be able to ever get things that are permanent, because you live in a world that is impermanent. So as long as your mind is craving permanence and wanting a relationship to be permanent, then when it's over, you'll struggle and have difficulties. It's the same thing like if you got fired from a job and you were at this job and then the job was over, or say the company went out of business or you got laid off and you were angry or sad or frustrated. The mind's craving for this job to be permanent. Or say you get a brand new car and you get so excited with this brand new car. And now when you park it at a store, you go inside and you come out and you see a scratch on the car. You might get sad or frustrated or angry. It's not the scratch that's causing that. It's not the person who scratched your car. It's the mind craving permanence. It's wanting this car to be permanently beautiful when it's not possible. Now, we're not talking about what's wise or unwise, because we walk around in parking lots and we aspire to never scratch somebody's car. That's what we try to do. But we live in an impermanent world, that this car is going to get a scratch. The paint is going to fade. The upholstery is going to maybe get ripped or torn or something like this. But as long as your mind is craving permanence in this car or this relationship or this job or any other thing, your mind's going to struggle when you're experiencing impermanence. Because the mind in the unenlightened state lacks the wisdom to understand this is a universal truth, that things are constantly changing, that there's not going to be anything in this material world that's permanent. So as long as you're craving permanence, your mind will struggle and have difficulties. Again, it's not love that's causing your painful feelings, because love is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. Active goodwill towards all beings. This doesn't cause painful feelings. So when grandma or grandpa or mom or dad or brothers and sisters die, for example, if you feel grief or sadness during that time, you're not a bad person. You haven't done anything wrong. It's just that the mind is craving permanence. If grandma and grandpa are alive, you feel so happy. You feel great. But then when they pass away, you might grieve or you might feel sad or sorrowful. And this is because the mind's craving for these people to be permanent in your life. But they're not permanent. Because they were born, they have to die. Every single one of us, we're going to die. right? And that's what we're going to experience because of impermanence. But as long as our mind is craving permanence, maybe we're craving permanent life. And now when we're getting close to death, we really struggle. Or we're holding on to our money, and now you want that money to be permanent. So when your bank account's here, you feel so happy. But then when it goes here, you feel sad or frustrated. That's because the mind is craving permanence. So you can take what I'm sharing with you and independently verify it. Because remember, the teachings of the Buddha aren't based on belief. So you shouldn't believe the books. You shouldn't believe me. You shouldn't believe anything. Belief, you don't know what's true or false. You need to be able to get the wisdom and see the truth for yourself. And coming to terms with what's really causing these discontent feelings, when you understand what's causing them, then you can apply the tools and techniques to eliminate them. So don't believe what I'm sharing here. Independently verify it. Think about a recent time when you've been angry, you've been sad, you've been frustrated, you've been annoyed or agitated. Think about that situation. Now, at that time, you might have been looking for someone else to blame, but it's not somebody else. Take this new wisdom, these new fresh eyes, and look at that situation. There was something your mind was craving. You were longing and yearning and wanting things to be a certain way. And if it would have happened that way, you would have been happy. But because you didn't get what you wanted, you got sad or frustrated or angry or annoyed. And if you're having trouble seeing that with your own eyes, let me know, and I will help you to be able to see it. Because I've had students sometimes, they raise their hand like, teacher, I went to work the other day and my house was beautiful, and I went to work and I came home, and when I got home, I got frustrated because my wife had this craft project all over the house. The house was a wreck, and I got frustrated. How does my mind cause it to be frustrated? I wasn't even there. She's the one who messed up the house. How did my mind cause this? Well, your mind was craving permanence. You expected this house to look a certain way permanently. You were having an expectation, a want, a longing, yearning. And when you came home and you saw this change, this impermanence, your mind didn't like that. You were craving permanence. And this house can't look any particular way permanently. It's not possible. And just like your house can't look permanently one particular way, your wife's crafts project will eventually be put away. She's going to put it away, and maybe you'll even help her, right? But as long as you're craving and expecting permanence, when you see this house looking different than what it did when you went to work, you'll be sad or frustrated or agitated. So you can look at your own situations and see for yourself that your mind is causing your own discontentedness. Now, I know you've probably been in arguments before where you've been adamantly trying to convince somebody else that they had to stop doing what they were doing because they were making you angry, or they were frustrating you, or they were annoying you. You might have been fighting until death, yelling and hollering and being harsh and bitter. Because when the mind doesn't get what it wants, this anger arises. Remember, with craving in your mind, when you get what you want, you'll get happy. You'll get excited. But when you don't get what you want, it's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another individual. So what you might do when you notice this anger or these painful feelings arising is you might push people away out of your life, or you might push a situation out of your life. This is called aversion. This doesn't solve the problem. You can see that it didn't solve the problem because anytime you've ever pushed somebody out of your life, or you push the situation out of your life, it didn't solve your problem because you just get angry or annoyed or agitated. Again, it's only a matter of time. Or you might have been bitter and harsh and hostile with somebody through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, not realizing that your own mind is causing your discontentedness. You firmly believed that somebody else was causing you to be angry, so you might have been bitter and harsh and hostile towards them, and they might have chose to leave out of your life because of that. Or you might have put your expectations on this person, trying to control them and try to force them to do things your way. Because this is what the unenlightened mind will do with the lack of wisdom. When you firmly believe that it's something external that's causing your discontent feelings, you'll push that away. You'll push the people or the situation away. You'll be bitter, harsh, and hostile, or you'll put your expectations on people. And this is just keeping you stuck in this continuous cycle of experiencing anger and sadness and frustration over and over and over because the mind is lacking wisdom. So what you're doing on the path to enlightenment is you're awakening to the wisdom to understand what it is that's causing these feelings. And then the Buddha is providing you the tools and the techniques to uproot the causes and conditions within your own mind that is causing these. And then when you apply these tools and techniques, you actually see the results now in this life. That's why I mentioned it's not about a bunch of beliefs and then hoping something good happens when you die. Instead, you're learning now. You're examining his teachings now. You're investigating them now. You're reflecting on his teachings now to independently verify whether they're true or they're false. And then you practice his teachings, integrating them into your life. And if you choose to do that, you'll experience peace and joy now in this life. That's what you're working towards. And you can see that it's working because you know in certain situations where you were once angry and you were bitter or harsh or hostile or frustrated or annoyed, and when those same situations are occurring, and you've been training your mind with the teachings of the Buddha, and your mind's not angry anymore, you just experience peace and joy, and you're not upset or frustrated, you'll know that it's these teachings that are working to accomplish that. So you can gradually train your mind over a consistent long-term period to eradicate these pollutions and move to this enlightened mental state where there's peace, calmness, serenity, contentedness, and joy. The mind is focused, it's concentrated, it's having deep memory and clarity of mind. This is a permanent mental state that you experience in this life. And you'll notice that your personal and professional relationships will really blossom because you're not being bitter and harsh and hostile anymore. You can conduct your relationships with ease. You get to the point where you're not even in a bad mood anymore because, again, the causes and conditions that are producing that have been uprooted. So for each individual, it's up to them to choose whether or not they would like to learn and practice and develop their mind. We provide the resources and the ability for you to do that. There's classes, courses, retreats. There's personal guidance, there's books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts. All these things are available to you at no cost. So if you're interested in healing from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again, there's help for you. And what you're healing from is what's in your own mind. Oftentimes we think it's something external that we need to heal from, but you can't go around the world and train 8 billion people to do things your way. So if you're interested in healing your own mind, getting to this peace and joy, the best thing that you could do is start with our first book, which is the volume 1 of the book series. You can download it for free from our website. You can take it and go print it if you like. You can get printed versions here at the temple by just reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can order it on Amazon if you have access to Amazon in your country. And in this way, you can start with that first book and gradually build up your practice. And then you might decide to attend a program like this, where each Sunday I'm teaching for about an hour and a half or 2 hours to be able to gradually help you to learn the teachings of the Buddha. And there's various courses and retreats throughout the month and throughout the year that you can attend that kind of consolidate it into a smaller package where over a period of 5 days, you can learn the foundational teachings. Again, it's all available at no cost. And then you learn in a class like this, but then you're going to need personal guidance too. And you can receive that at no cost too. You can sit down with me either here in Chiang Mai or anywhere in the world that I might travel to. Or if you're online, you can schedule from our website and you can meet with me in Zoom where we meet one-on-one. Because it's one thing to learn in a class like this, but it's a whole nother thing to relate those teachings to your personal life and the challenges that you're experiencing. So there's help for you here to be able to help you to understand these natural laws and to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. So meditation is an important part of this training. That's one aspect of what you're doing to train your mind to get to this enlightened mental state. So that's why we started our class with meditation. And I'd like to share with you that this meditation that we did is called breathing mindfulness meditation. This is a form of meditation that's training your mind to let go. Right? Because you just heard me share, and perhaps you independently verified, that it's your own mind, your own craving, desire, attachment that's causing these discontent feelings. The mind's holding on, wanting things to be a certain way. And if you get what you want, you get happy. But then if you don't get what you want, you get these painful feelings like anger, sadness, and others. So you need to train your mind to let go, because it doesn't want to let go. It's holding on and craving permanence. So this meditation of focusing on the breath, and when the mind moves off the breath, you cut this off, let it go, and bring the mind back to the breath. This meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. Sometimes people think, based on the guidance, that the goal is to eliminate your thoughts. But as long as you're alive, you're going to have thoughts. You can't eliminate those. You need those thoughts. They're helpful for you because it helps you to make decisions in the world. But when you're training in meditation, as thoughts are coming up, you're just cutting those off and letting them go. Anything and everything that comes up, you're cutting it off. Whether it's wholesome or it's unwholesome, you're cutting it off. And when you first get started on meditation, your mind might be bombarded with thoughts. You might just be thought constantly in your meditation. Or you might have had a thought and you indulged in that thought for a period of time, and you looked at it and you followed it and you enjoyed it and you looked at it, and or maybe it was a painful thought, right? And you just kind of indulged in that thought. And then at some point you were like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm meditating. Let me bring my mind back to the breath. So what you're doing here is you're training your mind to have focus and concentration. You're training your mind to focus on the breath and develop that concentration. And you're training your mind to have awareness or mindfulness, where you can be aware that the mind moved off the breath. These are the two wholesome qualities that you're training your mind to develop: mindfulness or awareness of mind, and concentration or focus. And then when your mind does move off the breath, you're training it to let go, and come back to the breath. And you might have had to do this 20 or 30 times in your meditation. Had to let go and come back, let go and come back, let go and come back. And this is really healthy for your mind. So in meditation, you're training your mind in a particular way. You're training your mind to let go of anything and everything that comes up, because you need to train your mind to let go, because it doesn't know how to let go. When you're out there in the world and that boyfriend or girlfriend breaks up with you, you can't let go. That's why the mind's angry. Or if someone cuts you off in traffic when you're driving, you can't let go. Right? The mind's craving permanence. So you need to train your mind to let go. So in meditation, we train our mind to let go of anything and everything, because you're building these qualities of concentration and mindfulness in eliminating the unwholesome quality and training it to let go. But then in daily life, you're only cutting off and letting go of the unwholesome things. Right? So if you're thinking about taking your mom out to lunch or to dinner, and you like to practice some generosity and spend some time with her, that's a wholesome thought. No need to cut that off in daily life. Go enjoy your time with your mom. But if you're thinking about punching your boss in the face, you should probably cut that off, right? Because that's going to produce unwholesome qualities, unwholesome things. If you punch your boss, you're probably going to get into a lot of trouble, right? This would be harmful to somebody. You're not interested in doing that. So you need to cut that thought off, right? So we're training in one way, but we're practicing in daily life another way. It's just like a professional athlete. If I was a pole vaulter, I might go into the gym and do cardiovascular training, weight training, agility training, things like this. And that looks a certain way in the gym. But when I go out and do my sport, it looks completely different. I'm doing pole vaulting, right? So it's the same thing as you're exercising your mind in meditation. That's what you're doing. You're building this muscle to be stronger. Just like if you lifted weights in a gym and your arm got stronger, and then when your friend's like, hey, can you help me move my couch? You're like, sure, no problem. Let's do it. Come on, let's go. And you can move the couch because you've got muscles. So it's the same thing as in daily life. If you're meditating consistently about 2 or 3 times a day, building this up to about 30 minutes or more, and it takes about 6 months, a year, even 2 years to build up to that frequency and that schedule, because you're going to need to clear things out of your life. But wherever you start is where you start. You know, if you start for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, it's up to you. But if you build up to 2 or 3 times a day for 30 minutes or more, and you're exercising your mind this way in meditation, where you're cutting off anything and anything, then in daily life, when you're out and about and you see something that you don't like, you can cut that off and let it go. You don't have to get angry about it. Or you hear something at work. You know, maybe you overhear somebody talking about something and you feel the frustration starting to build. You can cut that off and let it go. You can control your mind. You can discipline your mind. But if you haven't trained your mind, you can't control it. Right? So we clean this body every day. We take a shower, we brush our teeth, we do different things like this. But if you're not cleaning the mind every day, you're not addressing the whole being. You're not addressing this whole entire being. You're only cleaning the body. You haven't cleaned the mind. This being is a body and a mind, right? And they've come together. Now this is the human being. But if you're only cleaning the body, you haven't addressed the whole being. So this is why you're having anger and annoyance and frustration and these other discontent feelings, because you're not paying attention to the mind, and the mind isn't being trained. It's like this wild animal frolicking in the forest, and you would like to be able to control this mind and tame this mind so that now it can be disciplined, because in daily life, you're not going to see things that you agree with all the time. You're not going to hear things that you agree with all the time. You're not going to smell things that you agree with all the time. Certain flavors on your tongue, you're not going to agree with these all the time. Certain things are going to come in contact with the body that you don't agree with. And you're going to have certain things go through your mind that you don't agree with. So you're going to need to understand you live in an impermanent world, and you're going to need to let go of wanting and craving and longing and yearning and wanting things to be a certain way and expecting things to be a certain way. Because nobody's going to make decisions the same way as you. There's only one person who's going to make decisions the same way as you all the time, and that's you. Okay, so these teachings of the Buddha can be learned. You can reflect on them to independently verify them. You can practice them, and you can see the results that your mind is becoming more peaceful. There's an entire path to enlightenment, and the main core central teaching is called the Eightfold Path. This is what you're learning when you're first getting started on the path. But today's topic is something different than that. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open up to any and all questions you guys might have related to anything that I just shared about the teachings of the Buddha or meditation or anything that you're learning anywhere else or something that you've come across related to the teachings of the Buddha. If you would like to ask those questions, you're more than welcome to do that, and I'll help you before we talk about what we're going to discuss today. If you're here at the temple and you would like to ask questions, we have microphones here in the white bowl. If you could use a microphone, that'd be wonderful, because the people online will be able to hear you, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple as well. All you need to do is come get a microphone. You press the gray button. You wait for the lights to come on about a second or two, and you hold it up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online. If you speak here and you don't have a microphone, they wouldn't be able to hear you online. And then for those of you guys online, you can ask questions by putting that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any and all questions that you like. And if you get one of these microphones, you can take it back to the seat where you're at, because you might have more than one question, or the people around you might have questions as well. So is there anybody here, anybody online that has a question you guys would like to ask? I don't see any questions here. I have some online, but let me just check some other places. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and ask this one online. And if you guys have any here, you're more than welcome to ask those. Let me get this out. Let's see, Chris is asking a question. I think I read in one of your books about the Buddha indicating a stream enter, this is the first stage of enlightenment, as providing more value than a wheel-turning monarch. Is it possible to be both a stream enter and a wheel-turning monarch? The answer is yes, Chris. Given today's corporate culture, could a CEO or social media platform owner be a wheel-turning monarch, or is this title specifically for government leaders? No, that person could actually be today the way we think about a wheel-turning monarch. They could be that person. It seems that the world could potentially have many wheel-turning monarchs in this day and age. Thank you, sir. All right, Teacher David. Can you share what the bodily sensations of maturing and release is like, what it feels like? Thank you, sir. Okay, so the Buddha teaches that as you're training your mind, that the mind essentially matures and matures and matures, and you accumulate more and more ability to let go. And then as this mind matures, eventually you're going to let go. So while we talk about cutting off and letting go, and that's what you're looking to do to eliminate your cravings, desires, attachments, you can get to the point where there is no more arising of any discontent feelings. So right now, there's certain discontent feelings that arise, and you're going to need to cut those off and let those go. But as you eliminate the causes and conditions that are producing these, eventually you'll get to the point where there is no arising of anger. There's no arising of frustration. So this results in the training, as you're training your mind, it results in what's called maturing and release. This is what the Buddha teaches. And you can see this and observe this in your own mind as you train your mind, that over a consistent long-term period, you're training your mind with meditation, but with other teachings as well, because there's an entire path that you need to learn. But as you're gradually training your mind, excuse me. Wow. So as you're gradually training your mind through all the different teachings, you eventually get to a point where the mind has accumulated enough training that it matures and matures and matures, and you can actually experience the release of these causes and conditions that are producing the discontent feelings. So you might actually observe a particular craving leaving the mind. Early in practice, you won't notice this, but as you develop the mind more and more and it matures, you can notice this. So the bodily sensations that we're talking about, Chris, with the 4 foundations of mindfulness, these are the bodily sensations like before you get angry, before you get sad or frustrated or agitated, there's some bodily sensation that's occurring. You might notice like tingling in the body, tightening in the chest, maybe tightening in the throat, heat in the face, or pressure in the skull. This is like an early warning system alerting you that you're about to get angry. You're about to get frustrated or agitated, and you can cut it off and let it go there. And that's ideal. If you've been training your mind with breathing mindfulness meditation and the other teachings, you'll be able to train your mind to notice those bodily sensations coming and your mind's about to get angry, and you can cut it off and let it go before it actually becomes a feeling. And this is what you would ultimately like to accomplish. And what we're talking about with maturing and release, Chris, you might notice the same bodily sensations in that you actually are releasing this craving, desire, attachment out of the mind. So it's not something different or special. It's the same exact thing. But you might notice inside the mind that as you release a certain attachment, the mind can become peaceful. The mind can become joyful. You might have experienced that already where, like, say that boyfriend or girlfriend you were with, when you guys broke up, you might have been so angry or frustrated, or might have felt lonely or bored. But at some point you were like, you know what? If he wants to be with someone else, so be it. Or if she wants to be with someone else, so be it. Or they want to move to another city, okay, up to them. And your mind let go. And you might have noticed in that instant that there was peace and joy that came into the mind. That was the release. That when you release that craving, desire, attachment, the mind gained its peacefulness and its joy. And this is one of the ways you can confirm the teachings of the Buddha, that you can see that when you eliminate craving, desire, attachment, the mind gets peaceful and it gets joyful. Jack, you have a question?
Hello. Yeah, regarding unconditional love, obviously, like maybe your mum, or how would you define unconditional love? Because it's easier, because you're feeling maybe more affection and love from that person as opposed to somebody you don't know. Yeah. So that wouldn't be conditional. You do things for your mum without blinking an eye, sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay, so unconditional love is where you love someone as they are. You don't want them to be different. You're not putting your expectations on people to control people or make people be different. You just love them as they are. You understand that you're not going to agree with all their decisions, and that's okay. That you can love the person. That the person and the decisions are two different things. But oftentimes when we disagree with someone's decisions in the unenlightened state, we think like, oh, I can't love this person anymore because I don't agree with what they're doing here. And you might push this person aside. That's not actually love. That's craving, desire, attachment masquerading as love. So what we do in the unenlightened state is we misunderstand love. We don't understand what love is. We think we're falling in love with people and you're falling out of love with people. If you understand what true love is, you can't fall in love and out of love with people. So what we're doing is we're having these cravings, desires, attachments that the mind is longing, yearning, and wanting things to be a certain way. So if you meet somebody and they're meeting your expectations and they're doing what you want them to do over a period of a month or 2 or 3, they're now doing everything you want them to do. And you might say, I love you, right? And they might say, I love you too, right? And now you guys are in love because you've fallen in love. And now you might think like, I love you, so therefore I want you to be with me because you make me happy. Right? I love you. I want you to be with me because you make me happy. This isn't actually love. This is the selfishness. This is the craving, the desire, the attachment. It's, hey, if you do what I want you to do, I will say I love you. And because you're doing what I want you to do, it makes me happy. And it's all about me and my selfishness. And I want you to do these things. But hey, when you stop doing what I want you to do, I don't love you anymore. You stop doing what I want you to do, I don't love you. This isn't actually love. This is craving, desire, attachment masquerading as love. The mind thinks that this is love, but it's actually conditional. There's no such thing as conditional love, but if we would like to call it that, that's what it is. It's you meet these conditions and you do what I want you to do, and I will say I love you, and I will act like I love you, and I will talk like I love you, and I will do things that look like I love you. But as soon as you stop doing what I want you to do, nope, I don't love you anymore. I've fallen out of love with you. So this is craving, desire, attachment. what you would like to get to in all your relationships is where you have unconditional love. This is true love. Love without attachment. Love without expectations. That you don't put your expectations on people and try to control them and get them to do things your way. Understanding that in order to love somebody, you need to create space and allow people to make their own decisions. When you're putting your expectations on people, you're not loving that person. You're wanting them to do things your way. And now they feel smothered. They feel like you're forcing and pressuring them to do things a certain way. So you need to understand that you're not going to agree with mom's decisions all the time. You're not going to agree with dad's decisions all the time, or brothers or sisters or your life partner. You're not going to agree with their decisions, but you can still love the person because of the universal truth of impermanence. It's not possible for people to make decisions the same way as you. If your love is conditioned on, I can only love people who make decisions the same way as me, then you can only love one person in the world, because there's only one person who's going to make decisions the same way as you. Do you know who that is? Who's going to make decisions the same way as you? You. And you might even find it challenging to love yourself sometimes. If you have a negative self-talk and degrading and diminishing talk, inner dialogue within your own mind, you might even find it hard to love yourself sometimes. And that's from those pollutions that we talked about in the mind. But there's solutions to all of this. So you need to be able to separate the decisions somebody makes from the person and realize that mom, dad, brothers, sisters, of course they're making decisions differently than you because they've had different experiences in life. But with your mind's ego, thinking that you're right and everyone else is wrong, you'll think that your way is the right way and everybody else is doing it the wrong way, right? This is the ego putting yourself above other people. But in reality, there's multiple right ways to do things in the world. There's not just one right way, right? There's multiple wise ways to do things. And you can help somebody, you can offer suggestions and support, but it's up to that individual to decide if they're interested in that or not. But when we rush into somebody's life and we try to control them and force them to do things a certain way, that's from our own craving. That we will have painful feelings if that person is struggling because we're attached to this person and we want them to never struggle. And when we see them struggling, now you get painful feelings. And the mind thinks the way to solve this is rush in there and make a bunch of decisions for these people. But that doesn't actually solve the problem because the real cause of the problem is your own craving. You're wanting this person to never struggle. But that's one of the ways that we cultivate wisdom is through struggling, through challenging. And it doesn't mean that you enjoy when people struggle, but it's kind of like a parallel process. Like my son, he's almost 12 now. You know, he goes forward in life and he's making certain decisions. And I see that he might be headed for some problem. I'm kind of like this parallel process alongside of him. And when I look and I see he's getting ready to experience a problem, I'll say, hey, son, are you interested in some advice on that? Would you like some help? And he's like, sure, Dad, what do you got to share? I was like, here, you might think about doing it this way, or you might consider this information here. I'm here to guide him to cultivate wisdom. I'm not here to tell him what to do because he's his own individual being. But as soon as you think he's my son, he belongs to me, he's got to do things my way, now you're going to try to control this individual. Now your relationship will be very turbulent. But if you realize that they are their own individual being, and as a parent, you're impermanent in their life, right? I'm going to Mexico next week for 3 weeks to teach. He's going to be all by himself with his mom, right? And if he doesn't have the wisdom to make wise decisions, he's going to end up in all kinds of unwholesome experiences. But what I've been doing over the last several years is helping him to cultivate wisdom so that he knows how to make wise decisions. So now whether I'm with him or whether I'm away from him, he can make wise decisions. Whereas if he's only doing things my way because I told him to, he hasn't cultivated the wisdom of how to make those decisions on his own. And maybe he's only doing it out of fear because his dad's around and now I'm fearing him and pressuring him to do things my way. But if you can step back in your relationships, whether it's a life partner, whether it's children or coworkers or friends, if you can step back, realize that they're their own being, and your role as a person who loves them is just to support them, encourage them, and provide them a guidance and support when they're interested, now you can have a wonderful relationship because you're not trying to control this person and force this person to be any particular way. My mom would sometimes come to me and ask me for advice, and I would give her advice. I'd sometimes spend 30 minutes, even an hour, talking to her and helping her see a particular problem. And she was asking for the advice. She was soliciting it. And she would say, David, I think you're exactly right, but I'm not going to do it that way. I was like, okay, no problem, Mom. Do whatever you like. It's up to you, right? So if you're helping somebody, you've got to do it without any expectation, right? Because if you expect that just because I'm helping this person, they got to do it my way. I spent an hour talking to them. Gosh, they got to do it my way. Nope. They might do it some way different. And if they go off in the world and they do it some way different, that's okay. That's their choice. In this one particular example, my mom did come back 6 months later. She said, David, it happened again. I didn't do what you told me and what you suggested, and it really blew up on me, and I got all these problems because of it. I was like, that's okay, Mom. You're still learning, right? You're learning, right? So you can't have any expectation that this person will do things, even when they ask for your help. So you need to be able to see yourself as your own individual being. They are their own individual being. You're not going to agree with their decisions all the time. They may even listen to you and understand what you have to say and do it completely different. And you can't be attached to wanting them to do it any particular way. And this is just loving them as they are. Realize that they're a work in progress, that they're cultivating wisdom themselves. They are their own being, and you just love them as they are, and understand that everybody's a work in progress on their own independent journey.
Would you say it's a different type of love for your mom or your family than for somebody else?
If you understand what true love is, it's all the same. Like, I love you the same way I love my son. My role is different, right? But I love everybody equally, that I have a genuine interest in seeing you be well. And that's why I'll sit here and talk to you and help you as you ask questions. And same like my son, he'll come to me sometimes and ask for help, and I will help him, right? But my role is different, right? Like if you, if you had a medical injury, if you needed help and someone to take you to the hospital, of course, I'd take you to the hospital and help you. But that's not my role, right? With my son, he needs food, clothing, shelter, medical care. He needs these kinds of things, and I need to provide that for him as part of my role in his life. And that's because I do have love for him. I have a genuine interest in seeing him be well, and this is my role in his life. That's not my role in your life. If you needed help with those kinds of things, I would help you, but you're doing those things on your own. And more, my son will be able to do those things on his own too, but he needs to learn how to go out into the world and accomplish those things for himself. But the love, meaning loving people as they are, having a genuine interest in seeing them be well, have active goodwill towards them, it's the same. So that's why I can love you before I ever met you. And that's why I don't fall in love with you and out of love with you, because you didn't do anything to earn my love. And because you didn't do anything to earn my love, there's nothing you can do for me to stop loving you. There's no cause and condition that's producing my love. So it's not like you do these things for me and then I will love you. No, I just love you as you are. I'm here to help you. I'm here to support you. I'm here to encourage you and help you to learn. But it's up to you. Each individual person is responsible for their own peacefulness and their own joy. So I'm here to support an individual, but I just love them as they are. And because you didn't do anything to earn my love, there's nothing you can do to stop me from loving you. If you murdered somebody today and you called me from a jail cell and said, David, I really need your help. I murdered somebody. I need to talk to you. Okay. No judgment, no anger, no frustration. I disagree with the decision that this person murdered, but there's no reason for me to be hateful or vindictive or angry. That doesn't solve anything. Instead, let me just help this person. They're asking for help, and I will help them. So when you can love people unconditionally, it means you can love them as they are. That's going to be really hard for you as long as you have craving, desire, attachment in your mind. That's why there's a whole path for you to learn and grow and develop and train your mind to get rid of your cravings. Because right now, if somebody murdered your mom, you'd probably be very angry. You'd probably be very upset, and you probably hate that person. But that hate is not coming from that other person. That hate is coming from within your own mind. The mind is craving permanence, wanting mom to be permanent, and now you think that this person took your mom away from you, and now I'm going to hate that person because I'm not getting what I want, which is my mom to be permanent. But even if your mom died naturally for natural causes, there's going to be the sadness and the sorrow, right? That's the attachment that the mind has. But you can get to a point where even people around you, as they die, you can maintain your peacefulness. You can maintain your appreciation for this person. You can maintain your joy without feeling like someone pulled the carpet out from under your feet, or you've been chopped off at the knees, because this is oftentimes how it feels when someone dies that's close to you. If you have attachment to them and you're not loving them as they are, and you just are holding on, craving them to be permanent, you can feel very sorrowful. It can feel like someone chopped you off at the knees or pulled the carpet out from under your feet when they die. But you can get to the point where you understand that, okay, they've died, and that's normal. They died because they were born. That's the only reason why they died. Sometimes people think that God took this person away from me and things like this. No, that's not what happened. They just died because they were born. We're all impermanent. God didn't take anybody away from you. They just died because we all die. Every single one of us. We die for the same reason, because we're born. Right? That's the whole reason why we all die. So as long as the mind's craving permanence in that situation, you'll grieve and be sorrowful. So you can get to the point where you don't have these cravings and there isn't any anger that arises. So even when someone dies, you can just have appreciation and gratitude for the time that you spent with them, and you can be joyful despite the fact that they've died. You're not joyful because they died. You're joyful despite that they've died. So your love is the same for all people in the world, but your role is going to be different from person to person.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. You just need to learn how to practice that more and more. I saw some more people get mics. Yeah, you have a question?
Thank you. I'm Hurley and I'm from Taiwan. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and wisdom with us today. So I'm just wondering, I think I understand the concept of letting it go and the importance of training our mind to do that. But sometimes I feel like, for example, if there's a result that I'm sure that I want to achieve, but I'm not achieving it, or I haven't achieved it, I'm in the process of doing it, I think I just couldn't help to just get frustrated and disappointed or even sad in that kind of situation. While I think I understand the importance of just letting it go, but I think in that kind of situation, it's quite difficult. So I'm just wondering if you have any suggestions regarding that kind of specific situations.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what you need to do is you need to learn what a true goal is, a true objective, a true interest, and gradually work towards this. Because what your mind's doing is you're having an attachment, you're having a craving. You set a plan for yourself and, I got to get this. And if the mind gets what it wants, it gets happy. But if you don't get what you want, you get sad or frustrated. So you're going to need to, up front, when you set a certain goal, it needs to be a true goal. Where what a true goal is you can be peaceful and joyful no matter what. If you obtain this thing, great. If you don't obtain it, that's okay too. But you gradually work towards it. So when you're setting these goals, you need to remind yourself, I may or may not accomplish this, and that's okay. If your ultimate goal in life is to accomplish the cultivation of wisdom, then no matter what you're doing, you're always succeeding. Even if you don't meet a certain goal, let's just say you get 80% of your way there, you've still succeeded because you cultivated wisdom on your way to that 80%. But if you set your sights on the accomplishment of the goal, you can only be happy if you get that goal. That's forming your inner feelings based on some condition. You would like to get to the point where when you're setting goals, you remind yourself this may or may not even happen this way. And now you work your way towards it, making wise decisions. And let's just say you get 80% of the way there. And now you need to either change your timeline, or you need to add more resources to the goal, or you need to just look at it and be like, you know what? 80% is fine. I'm completely content with 80%. This is great. I don't even have to go any further. So when you're setting goals, don't crave it. Don't long for it. Remind yourself that it may or may not happen. Then gradually make your way to this goal. And then if you fall short of it, just look at it and say, okay, what do I need to do here? Do I need to increase my timeline? Do I need to add more resources? Or am I just completely comfortable with the 80% and that's good? And we can just stop here. And now don't form your feelings based on whether you get that goal or not.
That helped a lot. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Ma'am, you have a question? Mm-hmm.
Hi, David. Hi, everyone. Thank you for sharing with us. Just now, I understand that you mentioned it's our mind craving for permanence, right? that makes our anger or sorrow arise. But what if when it comes to physical suffering, like super bad migraine or something, that time is the actual physical feelings makes you suffer or your mind?
Okay, so I'll explain this to you. So whenever there's any physical issue going on, there's two things that are happening here. There's the physical pain, and then there's the mental anguish that goes along with it. In the unenlightened state, you're going to experience the mental anguish. It's kind of like getting hit with two darts. Like, let's just say you stump your toe. Okay, that's the physical pain because you hit your toe up against a piece of furniture. And now when the physical pain is being experienced, if the mind is craving permanent comfort, now you experience the mental anguish where you're angry or frustrated or agitated, and it heightens the physical pain. It makes the physical pain even more unbearable. So in the unenlightened state, when you have craving, desire, attachment in your mind, it's like getting hit with two darts. The first dart is the physical pain. That hurts. And then if you're craving permanence and you want this body to be permanently comfortable, now you're going to get the mental anguish, the anger and the frustration. You might start cussing and yelling at people and things like this. And now it's going to heighten the physical pain. But if you train your mind to eliminate craving, desire, attachment, where you understand that this body can't be permanently healthy, it can't be permanently comfortable. It's not possible because you live in an impermanent world. Then if you're enlightened and you don't have these cravings and you stump your toe, you'll experience the physical pain. You're going to always experience physical pain, but it's going to be muted. It's going to be very minimal compared to what you used to once experience because you're not going to experience the mental anguish. You can get to the point where there's just physical pain, but it's very minimal compared to what you used to once experience because when you stump your toe, you might actually start laughing, right? You know that this pain is impermanent. That hurt. What did I do? I didn't turn on the light. I didn't see that chair sitting there. That really hurt. Okay. You just kind of maybe rub it and you know that this is impermanent. So the mind isn't going to experience the mental anguish. So you will still experience a little bit of physical pain here and there, even when your mind's enlightened, but your mind will be completely peaceful and you're completely joyful during this time frame that you experience any kind of physical pain. At the time of death, when the mind and the body separate, now you won't experience physical pain anymore. But you need that little bit of physical pain because that's an indication to the mind that, hey, something's wrong with the body, and take action. So even as an enlightened being, if you are standing too close to a fire, for example, you need to feel that little bit of heat and that sensation so you know, I need to move away. It's unwise for me to stand next to this fire. Whereas if you didn't have that little bit of physical pain, you wouldn't be able to know that, and you would end up experiencing the body getting burned. So the physical pain that you experience in the enlightened mental state is very minimal compared to what you experience when you're in unenlightened state, because in the enlightened state, you're only getting hit with one dart, the physical pain. But in the unenlightened state, you're getting hit with both darts. You're getting hit with two darts. Question? Do you have more? Okay, you're welcome. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your sharing. My opinion is that under these social communities, we need to live each other and then communicate with other people. Some of them are negative and then give me negative comments to me, and I always overthinking and then concentrate other people on my and then I feel depressed and then also feel under the good manner. I need to show them to a good manner and then happy face to them. But I feel I can't express my opinion in my mind. So what can I do to express under my heart? Yeah.
Can you give me more details about the situation, about exactly what's happening?
For example, in my workstations, my supervisors give me advice, and then he used impolite manner to me, and then under these situations, I can't express my true opinion to him because he's my boss, he's my supervisors, but my feeling is so sad or hard in the moment. So how can I express my feeling?
Did you say that he gave you a raise and then he was rude and disrespectful to you? Is that what you said? Okay. All right. So you can't control what other people do. You can't control what other people say, what they do. All you can do is train your own mind to be able to be unaffected by what other people choose. Everything you experience in life is a result of decisions that you're making. So now that you know how the supervisor is, you have some decisions to make. You could try to talk to the individual and let them know what they're doing, but you can't change them. And even if you could, there's only going to be a matter of time before somebody else is doing something that your mind doesn't want them to do. So as long as you have craving, desire, attachment in your mind, wanting other people to be a certain way, when they're not that way, you'll be frustrated, agitated, or annoyed. But then there's also the wise decision making about the type of person you would feel good to work for, right? If this person is rude and disrespectful and hostile and bitter to you, it might not be the best work environment for you. You might decide that it would be wise to go somewhere else because you can't change this person. You can't force this person to be a certain way. So all you can do is make decisions that put your mind in a situation where you're able to experience improvement in your life. But if you do choose to leave from this job or this occupation, it's not going to solve your problem because you have cravings in your mind that your next boss is going to do things that you disagree with too. And now you're going to be angry or frustrated in that situation as well. So if you do decide to leave, be sure you understand that you need to still train your mind to eliminate your craving, desire, attachment. You can't fix the anger and the agitation or the frustration by just moving around and trying to put people around you that do things your way. That's what the mind might be trying to do. So if you do decide to leave from an occupation because the boss is being unkind and unfriendly and disrespectful and things like this, you still need to train your mind to not crave and long and yearn for those things to be a certain way. So the answer to your question, I know you're asking me like, how do I voice my opinion? You can share your opinion with your boss and things like this. But if you're trying to change this person, you're not going to be successful at it because this person has to decide to change for themselves. They have to decide that that's something that they're interested in doing. And their disrespect is coming from their own lack of wisdom. They don't realize that by being disrespectful, people aren't going to be interested in being around you. So as long as you continue to be around that person, then they're going to continue to function that way. I'll tell you a story when I was in corporate world and how I handled it. I had a direct supervisor, and then we both worked for a director. And this director was kind of well known in our company as being bitter and harsh and hostile to people. And I was new to this company. I'd been working there for a few months and had a team of about 55 people. I was a manager, and there was some big issue with the software in the company, and our team stayed there over the weekend without getting paid, and we solved this problem. And the company was like praising us for all the things that we had done to fix this software issue. And the director said, "Hey, you guys did a really great job here. Why don't you guys come up with something that you would like to do, and I will support it and I will pay for it, and you can do whatever you'd like with your team to celebrate their success." And I was like, perfect. Thank you. I really appreciate that. So I went and talked with the team, got everybody together and said, hey, what would you guys like to do? And they came up with the idea they would like to go to this place where they have like a bunch of video games and pizza and this kind of stuff. And I was like, sweet, that's exactly what we'll do because that's what you guys would like to do. I'll take you there. So then, a couple of weeks went by and I went back to the director, and things had kind of shifted and changed in the company. They were starting to do some layoffs in other parts of the company. And I went to the director and I said, hey, this is what we'd like to do. The employees would like to go to this restaurant that has video games and pizza and stuff like that. And I wrote it in an email, and I included other managers and other directors because they were all supportive of what we were doing. And the director fires back a message on a Friday afternoon, all grumpy and irritable and nasty. And he's like, with all the problems in the company, that's the last thing that we need to be doing is taking people out to eat pizza and play video games and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, whoa. like 2 weeks ago, they're the ones who told me that they were going to give me budget to go do this. Now I've went off and talked to my employees, and my employees said that this is what they would like to do. And now I've committed to doing that. And now he's not going to support it. And then he just like trashed me in front of all these managers in the company in this email. And I thought about it over the weekend. And by this time, I already had my own business. I was working for about 1.5 years. I had created my own business and it was doing really well. And I was like, why am I even here? I don't need this money. I don't need this person talking to me like this. So Monday morning, I went in and I resigned. Right? I said, I gave him my 2 weeks notice. And I didn't tell them why. I didn't say it was because of this guy. I said, hey, look, my business is doing really well. We're about back in that time, they had newspapers. We're about to be in the newspaper. It's going to publish, about our company. We're going to get really successful after this. I'm going to resign. I'm giving you guys 2 weeks notice. Well, the director stepped in and he was like, hey, we're giving out bonuses in 6 weeks. And if you stay, you're going to get about $14,000. He's like, I suggest you stay for 6 weeks. And I said, no, I appreciate the offer. Thank you so much. I'm going to go over here. So you got to learn how to not hold on to things because of money or because of other things. You need to learn to let go. And if something's just not working, just let it go and move on. The more you try to hold on to it, the more you try to change this other person, the more frustrated you're going to get because they're never going to meet your expectations. So if I tried to change this director, I would have just been frustrated. So it was better for me to just go somewhere else and do other things. And this was a really good decision because our company ultimately became really successful. So you're going to need to look at this and decide, is this something that you can let go of your cravings of wanting this person to be a certain way? Can you exist in this company and do wonderful work and feel good about the work that you're doing, even though you know how this person is and you can let go of your craving of wanting this person to be a certain way? Or do you need to let go of this job and move to another company and work for a different person? But even still, you're going to need to get to the point where you don't have expectations of your new boss. Because if you have an expectation that they'll be a certain way, they're never going to meet those expectations because they are their own unique being. They're not going to do things the same way as you. You're welcome. Okay. So I'm not seeing any other questions anywhere. So it's basically about 10:30, and usually class is ending right about now, or maybe 10:45 or something like that. But we've had a great discussion here, sharing some things with you guys. This topic that we have in chapter 21, this title of this chapter is Do No Harm. What is the future of the planet? What I do in this chapter is I help students to understand that moving to this higher consciousness to eliminate your cravings, desires, attachments, get to this peace and joy, that you're going to need to have this ability to look at the decisions you're making and how you're impacting other people and other beings. That throughout the entire group learning program, I've been sharing with students how to train their mind. But now towards the end of the book, I bring up a couple of topics for them to think about in relationship to them getting to enlightenment. That anybody who's moving to this higher consciousness and training their mind to get to this peace and joy, you need to be able to understand that what you're experiencing in life is a result of your decisions, but then also your decisions are impacting other people. You can harm other beings. And this comes with an understanding of the planet and how our decisions affect other people, and the effect that we have to the planet that we can see with no uncertainty that we've had an impact on this planet, that 8 billion beings coming into this world and making all the changes to the land and to the world that we have with the physical structures that we've built, the roads that we've built, things like this. It's changed our climate. There's, undeniable truth that that's occurred. So we need to be able to look at how we're interacting with this planet, because this planet is here to support us and help us to be able to sustain our life. And the resources that this planet provides is something that we would like to have available for ourselves, but then also available for other people, because there's going to be our family members and other friends and people that are going to be here even when we die. And if you understand the cycle of rebirth from the teachings of the Buddha, if you don't get to enlightenment, you're coming back into the world yourself, right? But even if you get to enlightenment in this life and you're leaving this world, you would like to leave behind a world that is able to support life for other beings. So scientists tell us that, there's climate change. There's apparently 97% of the scientific community agrees that there's been significant changes to the planet. If you can get 97% of any population of people to agree to anything, that's pretty amazing. But independently, if the scientific community has come to the conclusion that there has been change and there's 97% of them that are agreeing to that, then we can say, yes, that there's real change. I mean, I've seen this change myself. I don't believe what other people are telling me. When I was growing up as a child, I'll tell you guys a little story. I used to skip school when I was in 2nd and 3rd grade. I used to not go to school. I'd take my parents' lunch money that they would give me, and I wouldn't go to school, and I would kind of go outside with my friends, and we would play around, and we'd go to 7-Eleven and buy food. When we were buying food, we liked to buy a lot of candy, of course, because we were in 2nd and 3rd grade, and we weren't interested in buying drinks and water. So we used to drink out of the stream. We lived about 30 minutes outside of Washington, D.C., and we would just put our mouth down into the creek right in our neighborhood, and we would drink out of the creek, and we'd have no problems with that because the water was nice and clean and flowing. But I guarantee you, if I went back to that creek today, there's no way that I could do that, because I did live in that community up until I was about 16 years old, and I'd gone past that creek before. And even at that point, when I was 16 years old, I would have never drank out of that creek. Where when I was much younger, when I was like 8 or 9 years old, I would have had no problem drinking out of that creek. So just in 7 or 8 years, I saw this drastic change to the world because, we're putting oil and we're putting other pollutants and poisons into the environment. So we can see ourselves, not just from scientists, that we've created impact to the world, that we've made certain decisions that have impacted the world negatively. So it's up to us to decide for our own individual self of what decisions we're making that is impacting the world and how we can improve those decisions. And when I was looking at this particular topic and I was writing the book, I looked at different research that talked about what could we do on an individual basis to be able to help the planet to be more healthy. Because sometimes we look at this problem as a global problem, and it's like, what can I really do as one individual to help with climate change? Because oftentimes it's big companies and corporations that are producing certain products or dumping waste and toxins into the environment, and they're doing some massive damage to the world. But you might think, like, as an individual, you don't really have power to create any real change with the environment. But when I was looking at this, we actually do. There's 2 things that multiple places agreed that there's something you can do on an individual basis. And I'll share these 2 things with you from the book because it's in that chapter and you can read it and learn all about it. What the scientists tell us, what researchers tell us, what consultants say, that they agree with, that there's these 2 things that we could do that have a big impact to the way that we experience the world and the impact we have on the world. The first one is, they said that there's an enormous amount of food waste in the world, that about 40% of all food goes to waste. And if we just choose to eat all of our food, this is going to have a huge impact to the environment. Because it's not just the food that we're wasting. You need to understand what goes into producing that food, right? There's a truck that drove down to the place where they bought the seeds, and then it drove back to the farm, and then they used resources to plant those seeds, and then they used resources to water those seeds, and then they used resources to harvest those plants. They used resources to take those harvest to the market and package them and sell them. And then people went to the market and they purchased those and they drove home with those products, and then they prepared those things. There's all these resources involved in our food supply and our food chain. There's all kinds of resources that are being used and utilized in order to produce food. And if we're wasting 40% of it, this is having a huge impact on the planet. So if each person, we just ate whatever we eat, and we we don't gorge ourselves and we don't have these big plates of food and then leave a bunch of extras afterwards. If we choose to eat all of our food, this can have a huge impact, because it's not just the food, it's all the gas and the resources and the water and everything that went into producing that food. This is one of the reasons why we have a lot of famine in the world. It's because we're wasting our food when that food could actually be used for other people so that they can have food that they need. So this is the one thing that the people agreed, that if we just ate all of our food. So if you look at this chapter in this book, the very last page, I put a picture of an empty plate and a fork, because me and my son were eating at a restaurant. I was like, that's so beautiful. We ate all our food. Let me take a picture. And that's the picture I put at the end of this chapter. The second thing that they said that we can do as an individual that will significantly help the health of the planet is if you choose to move to a plant-based food supply. Whether you choose to do that or not, or even the first thing that I said, it's your choice, right? It's always your life, it's your choices, it's your decisions, and it's your results. I'm not here to force you to do anything. I'm not here to convince you to do anything. I'm just sharing information with you that might help you make a more informed decision. That if you choose to move to a plant-based food supply, not only are you going to see the health of the planet improve, but you're going to see the health of this physical body improve. Because when you're ingesting animal flesh, you're ingesting drugs and hormones and toxins, because people are putting certain bacteria or certain antibiotics and certain growth hormones and things like this into the animals. Even wild animals that are being harvested, there's certain toxins inside the flesh. They took fish out of clean running streams in places like America, and they've tested the flesh, and they found over 90 different substances in the flesh, things like cocaine and antidepressants and things like this. So when you're eating the flesh of an animal, you're not just eating the flesh of the animal, you're eating the drugs and the hormones and the toxins. So what you'll notice over a 3 to 6 month period, if you switch to a plant-based food supply, is you're going to notice more health of the body and more health of the mind, because you're not ingesting those drugs and hormones and toxins. But whether you choose to do that or not is up to you. By eating a plant-based food supply, the food supply can actually service a lot more people, because like 1 acre of land, for example, they know that it can produce about 100 kilos of meat, for example, like beef or pork or something like this. But that same 1 acre of land can provide like 50,000 kilos of broccoli, for example. These numbers aren't necessarily exact, but it's about that kind of comparison. So if you move to a plant-based food supply, not only is the body and the mind going to be more healthy, but our food can be used and utilized across the world more widely, and there's less and less resources that need to go into producing this food for all of us, because there's so many beings here now in the world that we need to be able to provide food for all these individuals. So this might be something that you consider and that you might look at. If you're ever interested in moving to a plant-based food supply, or really changing anything in your life, I would suggest you do it slowly and gradually, because the mind, as you just heard, it craves permanence. Another way to say that is that the mind does not like impermanence. The mind doesn't like change. The unenlightened mind is craving permanence. So sometimes just the thought or the idea of moving away from meat, somebody can be annoyed and can be irritated and frustrated because their mind's holding on, right? Or if you start moving to a plant-based food supply, your mind might kind of revolt on you. It might not like it, right? Because it doesn't like change. So what you do is you do these small little incremental changes, and your mind almost won't even notice what's going on. So you slowly start eating at different restaurants that are maybe plant-based food. You slowly start building some recipes and food suppliers. You do this slowly but surely. Maybe one day you eat plant-based, one day you don't. One day you eat plant-based, one day you don't. Or one meal you eat plant-based, one meal you don't. And you slowly but surely increase this in your life. You can do the same thing, like say you were smoking cigarettes and you would like to get away from cigarettes. Going cold turkey, it's really hard for the mind, because the mind's craving permanence. It doesn't like that. It doesn't like that significant change. So if you were smoking, say, like 20 packs or 20 cigarettes per day, like a pack of cigarettes, instead of just going cold turkey, it's usually better to go down to 18 cigarettes for each day for about a week or so, and then go down to 15 for about a week or so, and then go down to 12, and then go down to 8, and slowly phase it out of your life like that. So you can phase out unwholesome things slowly and gradually like that, but you can also increase wholesome things in your life gradually and slowly like that, like eating a plant-based food supply. And you'll notice improvement, that your complexion will change, your hair and your nails will become brighter and they'll grow better. You'll notice that your eyes might even become brighter. You'll notice less illness and sickness in the body by doing this. But again, if you would like to do it, it's your choice. I'm just providing you the information that it not only helps you, but it helps the planet as well. So do you guys have any questions on this? You have a question, Jack?
So what about GMOs and all the impact of GMOs on plant-based foods?
Yeah, I haven't looked at that. For me, I eat here in Thailand. I think their food supply is pretty clean. They grow things locally, and you have access to the things that you need here. I don't know that they have a lot of that stuff. I haven't looked at those kinds of things. So you would need to look at those kinds of things. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a researcher. I'm not a nutritionist, as you can see, right? So you'll need to look at those kinds of things and make wise choices for yourself. Mm-hmm. Okay, so normally when I'm teaching, I have visual aids and I have slides and I go through and walk you through the teachings of the Buddha. But this particular topic, because it's in the book and it comes down to your own personal decisions, normally what I do in this particular class is I actually usually lead a discussion where the students are sharing things that they're currently doing to help improve the health of the planet. Because we talked about other things, I'm not going to do that today here, but that's typically what I do with this particular chapter, is rather than sit here and explain to you all the ways that you can help the planet, you're probably already doing things that you've probably modified some of your behavior. Maybe you're not getting plastic bags when you go to the store, or maybe you're using a reusable water bottle or something like that. These are all things that you're probably already doing. So what I would encourage you to do is continue to do those things, and also look around at what other people are doing and learn from other people about what you could potentially be doing to make wiser decisions about how you interact with the planet. Because whatever we're doing right now isn't 100% wise. Otherwise, we would see the health of the planet improving, but we see that the health of the planet is continuing to deteriorate. So whatever you're doing now, wonderful. And then just look for ways that you can improve from this point forward, and look for your friends or family or other people that are interested in the planet, because there's things that you can be doing on a personal level about the personal choices you make about how you interact with the planet. And this will lead you to cultivating more and more wisdom about certain decisions that you make and how you interact with the planet. So if you guys would like to learn more, you can always welcome to do that. Again, I suggest you start with the first book of the book series, Volume 1, and you can download it from our website for free. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can order it on Amazon if you like. The first book is the best place to start, because it's going to start you from the very beginning and walking you through the teachings of the Buddha to understand how to train your mind to eliminate the discontent feelings. And then towards the end, you get some miscellaneous content like this that is just helping you to think about other things aside from just what the Buddha taught. But the Buddha actually taught to interact with the planet in healthy ways as well. One of the things that he did during his lifetime is, during the rainy season, he encouraged his ordained practitioners to stay at the temple for 3 months, because during his time frame, they didn't have well-defined roads and sidewalks and things like this. So his ordained practitioners would walk from one town to the other by cutting through people's property, because they didn't have walkways and stuff like that so well-defined like we do today. So during the rainy season, when the earth was really soft, he would encourage his ordained practitioners to stay at the temple, because he had thousands and thousands of people that were learning with him, and they would just stay at their home temple, because if they walked through the fields, they could destroy the crops of people who were planting seeds and things like this. So even the Buddha taught things related to the climate and to the environment and the earth and things like that. And this tradition is actually still around. Even now, if you're an ordained practitioner, there's 3 months during the year where they stay at their home temple and they just learn from their master teacher. nature. So even the Buddha taught things about the world and the planet. And I imagine the planet was a very different place during his time frame. I imagine the water was very clean. The air was probably quite clean. We didn't have all the chemicals and things that we have nowadays. So now that we've been doing that for the last 100 years or so, we need to just look at it objectively and see like, yeah, we've made some unwise decisions. Let's make better decisions. Because when I was growing up, I was taught that when I changed the oil in my car, I just dumped it in the woods. And the oil filter, we just tossed it in the woods. And this is what we did as we were growing up. But then as I got a little bit older, I realized how unwise that was. And that wasn't the best way to handle that. And then you started making different decisions. And now we make different decisions and we experience different results. And that's what the teachings of the Buddha are all about, is looking at your wise decisions that are producing wholesome results for you and continuing to do those things. And where you're seeing unwise things or unwholesome things that are occurring, gain the wisdom that you need to stop making those kinds of decisions so that you can experience more and more wholesome results for your own personal life and the people around you. So if you'd like to learn more, we have classes here each Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday. We have them here and we have them online at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. You can attend class if you like for the group learning program. That's the place where people start. Then there's the Pali Canon and English Study Group, which is we explore volumes 2 through 13 of the entire book series, and we do that on Saturdays. And then I have various courses and retreats throughout the month that you can see on our calendar over there on the bulletin board, or you can see on our website that we have these as well. Next week on Sunday, I'm going to be teaching here, even though I'm going to be traveling. I'm still going to be teaching here at the temple because I'm going to be zooming in and teaching students here. I'll just, instead of sitting here, I'll be up there on the screen, and I'll be teaching here and I'll be teaching online. The topic is chapter 22. This is titled Mental Health, a Modern Day Delusion. What this is going to help you with is understanding things like ADHD, ADD, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, bulimia, anorexia, panic disorders, things like this. This can all actually be eradicated through training your mind. Right now, today, people are thinking that this is a biological thing, that people's brains are defective, but really what it is it's the mind is untrained. The more that you train the mind, these symptoms that are currently being associated with mental illness will actually be eliminated. You just need the guidance to understand what the problem is and how to train your mind. And as you train your mind, you'll see that your mind will become focused and concentrated. You won't have the up and down. You won't have the craving to look a certain way. But it just comes through understanding the problem and then implementing the solution. So next week, I'm going to help students to understand what these symptoms are with the mental health. And if you're experiencing any of these things, the symptoms are real. They're 100% real. But the cause that's actually causing them isn't your brain. It's not that your brain is defective and you need to introduce chemicals in order to fix that. You actually just need to train your mind. And there's plenty of students that have been learning with me that as they're learning on their own, and then oftentimes with their doctor's support, they're either reducing or they're completely eliminating their medication because their mind is now more trained and now their mind is stable. So if you're experiencing that or someone close to you is experiencing that, I'm going to be talking about that next Sunday and helping you guys understand all the various mental health conditions that people experience. And then I'm going to explain to you how to eradicate it and how to solve it through the teachings of the Buddha. So if you'd like to learn that, you're always welcome to come. So thank you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn the teachings of the Buddha. And perhaps we'll see you guys in a future class. Okay? Be well. Take care. Sawadee-khap. Sawadee-khap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.